Now let's talk about the risk versus reward proposition of just about anything we do. Pretty much whatever you do, you will carry a certain risk of death, whether it's your own death or someone else's death. And guess what? There's nothing wrong with that. That is life. In today's unfortunate social and political discourse, we have a lot of hyperbolic statements out there about whatever you're doing is going to cause irreparable damage. Whether it's if you go outside without a mask on, you're killing people. Or if you're going to protest lockdowns, you're killing people. Just stay inside and watch everything from a safe distance. Don't do any of that stuff. Or whether it's now you have the other side of you've had massive protests all over the globe about police brutality. Surely, if those are large public gatherings, they also carry a risk of killing lots of people through transmission of a virus. But essentially, everything you do to a certain extent carries some kind of a risk of, destruction or death. For example, if you go outside at all, you risk some kind of a risk of some bad person on the street attacking you and killing you. You have some risk of being hit by a car or catching a disease or being attacked by an animal. You have some sort of a risk of going out and driving and accidentally killing someone else. The risk is a lot lower if you just stay inside, right? There's just some inherent risk of going out and doing just about anything. The same thing happens if you do an athletic activity. Like, for example, if you play football, you do jiu-jitsu, you box, you do whatever, there's always a risk of injury and or death involved. And the same goes for whatever you eat. If you eat certain things, if you don't eat in a very perfect prescribed sort of a way, you could possibly risk death. Ice cream sundae you have one day, once in a while, that could contribute to your ultimate demise. Probably won't, but it could. And so life is basically a series of calculated risks. Every time you choose to take your own life in your own hands, you make a decision, whether it's conscious or not, that this is worth it. That I'd rather roll the dice that if I take a car and leave the house, I might die, but probably not. And guess what? I get to get a better job. I get to go to work. I get to even just go on a nice little road trip and just have some fun and make my very short time on this planet more meaningful and happy. And there's that calculated risk. Now, in some cases, hey, I want to go bungee jumping and I haven't checked all the harnesses, whatever. Sometimes your actions carry a lot greater of a risk and a lot lesser of a reward. And that's really what it comes down to when you see people angry about either people living their lives as normal or protesting against lockdowns, or people getting angry that there's people in the streets causing all kinds of chaos in order to shine the light on police brutality. Is both of those actions carry some sort of a risk. In the case of the first, not nearly as much. In the case of the second, there's a lot more chaos and stuff that can come out of that. Now, whether or not people gathering are actually causing any violence themselves, there will be police involved. There probably will be some violence on peaceful protesters. There might be some looters that come along and take advantage of the mass uprising and confusion to cause actual damage. There could be all kinds of things that happen. There's an inherent risk that happens. And people engaging in both categories of activity, both political categories of activity, as much as I hate to say it in those terms, it kind of became that now, are choosing to engage in a certain amount of risk because they think that the end result is worth it. And, I can't really disagree. I mean, on the one side, I think that if you have a serious police brutality problem out there, that people are actually getting killed and abused every single day by a system that just doesn't work, that's worth the risk of going out. And that doesn't mean that there could have been a way to do this without having all the riots, etc. But it's worth it to stand up and possibly attract some negative actions around it. It's worth it in order to get rid of this horrible evil, which is police brutality. Now, on the other side, you have a much, much, much smaller risk, and I would also say a less dramatic reward, which is you want to get your jobs back, you want to get the economy going, you want people to be able to feed themselves, you want people to be able to, again, create a nice, happy, fulfilling existence with whatever time they have on this planet, or you just want to go outside, you don't want to be looking like you're in a hospital all the time with the mask on and the breathing difficulties that come from that and all that. You want to just be able to enjoy your life, because otherwise, what's the point of living? And whatever risk comes from that is an acceptable price to pay. Now, that's the only real argument. The argument isn't you're killing people. That's a red herring. That's not a real argument. It's complete nonsense. The argument on both sides is really, I don't value what you're trying to get compared to the risk that I perceive you're creating. And that's an actual discussion we should be able to have, rather than you're killing people. No, you're killing people. It should be, I don't like the amount of risk you're putting on all of us for what you're trying to get out of it. Well, I don't like what you're doing. Let's talk about the merits of these things we're actually trying to preserve. And at that point, I think we can get somewhere. Or at least we can get to my favorite spot, which is, hey, I have no idea why you value that at all. I think that's stupid, but you're not me. I can't change your preferences. So just live your life and stay out of my way, and vice versa. And I hope we can actually get some movement on this. I hope we can actually start to recognize that this is about people making life choices based on what they really truly value, and either respecting that or deciding that they're going to have to agree to disagree on what really matters in life.